Hello students, welcome to my channel Rudraksh Study. I am going to explain class 11th chapter, that is, we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. It is written by Gordon Cook and Ellen East. The chapter revolves around a part of the round the world voyage undertaken by the narrator and his family in a sailboat. It describes their thrilling journey across the sea and their close encounter with death during their voyage. The plot talks about their possible attempts to save their lives. We would now talk about some of the characters in this story. The narrator. He is a 37-year-old businessman. He wants to duplicate the round the world journey made by Captain James Cook 200 years earlier. He spends a long time improving his sea skills and finally begins his journey with his wife Mary, 6-year-old son Jonathan, and 7-year-old daughter Suzanne. Second character is Mary. She is the narrator's wife. She supports her husband's dream and improves her sea skills. She joins her husband on their planned 3-year voyage. Third character is Larry Wiggy. He is an American who joins the narrator and Mary at Cape Town to help them tackle one of the world's roughest seas. Herb Singer is another character. He is a Swiss who also joins them at Cape Town to help them cross the southern Indian Ocean. Suzanne is narrator's 7-year-old daughter who displays immense courage throughout their voyage. Jonathan is narrator's 6-year-old son who shows immense strength and optimism even in a difficult time. The voyage begins. In July 1976, the narrator, a 37-year-old businessman, his wife Mary, 6-year-old son Jonathan, and 7-year-old daughter Suzanne started their sea voyage from Plymouth, England. They wished to go round the world on a long sea journey, just as Captain James Cook had done 200 years earlier. The narrator and his wife had spent 16 years preparing for the round the world voyage and improving their marine skills. Their boat, Wave Walker, was a 23-meter, 30-ton boat that was professionally built, and they had tested it in the roughest weather they could find. The first part of their planned 3-year 1,05,000 kilometer journey passed pleasantly as they sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. Then they took two crewmen, the American Larry Vigil and Swiss Herb Singler, before heading east from Cape Town to help them tackle one of the largest, roughest seas, the southern Indian Ocean. On the second day, out of Cape Town, they encountered strong winds and high waves. The windstorms continued for the next few weeks. The size of waves was up to 15 meters. On December 25, they were 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town, but the weather was very bad. Despite the bad weather, they celebrated Christmas Day wonderfully. The New Year's Day saw no improvement in the weather, and it worsened with the passing of the time. On 2nd January, the waves were gigantic. They were sailing with a small storm jib, but still they were going very fast. The boat moved to the top of each wave, but the gigantic waves and dangerous wind continued to terrorize them. To minimize the damage, they dropped them to storm jib and lashed a heavy rope in a loop across the stern. Then they fastened everything, went through their life raft drill, attached lifelines, and put on oilskins and life jackets and prepared themselves for the worst case scenario. The first dedication of impending disaster came at about 6 p.m. with an ominous silence. The wind stopped and the sky immediately grew dark. Then a loud roaring sound was heard. The narrator thought that he saw a cloud coming towards them. With horror, he realized it was not a cloud but the biggest wave that he had ever seen. It appeared vertical and double the length of all the other waves. The wave hit the boat and a tremendous explosion shook the deck. Water poured into the boat. The narrator's head smashed against the steering wheel of the boat, and before he knew it, he was thrown into the sea. He thought that he was going to die, but suddenly his head popped out of the water. He saw that the boat had almost capsized. Suddenly, a wave hurled it upright, and the narrator was tossed into the boat. His left ribs were cracked, his mouth was filled with blood, and some teeth were broken. Somehow, he managed to find the wheel, lined up the stern for the next wave, and hung on. The narrator knew that the boat was flooding with water, but he dared not abandon the wheel to investigate. Suddenly, Mary came and informed him that the boat was sinking as water was pouring it. He handled the wheel to her and crawled towards the hatch. Larry and Herb pumped the water out the boat. The wooden beams had broken. The whole starboard side had bulged inwards. Cloths, crockery, jars, tins, and toys moved around noisily in water. The boat had been damaged. He somehow managed to reach the children. Sue had a big bump on her head, to which he did not pay much attention. He found a hammer, screw, and a canvas. Somehow he managed to stretch the canvas and secure waterproof hatch cover across the gaping holes. Some water continued come in, but most of it could be prevented from entering the boat. But this was not the end of their troubles. The hand pumps started jamming with trash floating around the cabins. Soon their electric lamp got short-circuited and water rose threateningly. He found that their two spare hand pumps had been pulled away by currents along with the foresail, the jib, the lifeboats, and the main anchor. He managed to find another electric lamp to drain out the water. The night was an endless, bitterly cold routine of pumping, steering, and working the radio. However, there was no response to their mayday calls. They were in a remote corner of the world. Sue's head had swelling alarmingly. She had two black eyes and deep cut on her arm. She did not tell the narrator more of her injuries as she did not want to worry him when he was trying to save them all. On the morning of January 3, the pumps had reduced the amount of water on board. Each of them took a rest for 2 hours by turns. They had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit the wave walker, but the boat was not strong enough to take them to Australia. The narrator knew that the boat wouldn't hold together long enough. He checked his charts and calculated that the only one hope from them was if they could reach L'Île Amsterdam, a French scientific base, one of the two pinpricks in the vast ocean. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and they ate their first meal in almost 2 days. However, their belief was short-lived. The weather again started deteriorating, and by the dawn on 5th January, the situation was again desperate. The narrator went to comfort the children. He tried to assure them that they were going to make it. John said that they were not afraid of dying if they can all be together. This gave the narrator hope and the reason to fight the sea. He tried his best to protect the weakened starboard side of the boat. However, later in the evening, as more water came into the boat, they felt defeated again. On 6th January, the weather improved. The narrator again tried to calculate their position. While he was at work, Sue came to him and gave him a card. She had drawn caricatures of Mary and the narrator. The card said that she loved them both and hoped for the best. The narrator was filled with optimism. Somehow they had to make it. The narrator made several calculations using a spare compass, made some judgments, and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. He said that if they were lucky, they would see the island at about 5 p.m. Dejected, he went down to his bunk and fell asleep. It was about 6 p.m. when he woke up. He thought that they must have missed the island. Just then, John and Sue came to him and gave him a huge hug because he was the best daddy in the world. The narrator was confused. Sue announced that the island was just in front of them. He rushed out of the deck and saw the most beautiful island in the world. It was L'Île Amsterdam, a piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation. When his feet touched the land the next day, he thought of the cheerfulness and optimism of all the people on the boat, which made them pass through the worst stress. This was all the story about We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together, written by Gordon Cook and Ellen East. Thank you.